What's up, everybody? Parker's Place here, and we're doing another tier list with some Pokemon starters. Let's go. Alright, so starting off with Venusaur. And I think Venusaur, probably a B tier. You know, I think this might be too many tiers. Yeah, because really none of the starters are bad, so you can't really have like an E tier. Let's just start over. Let's just start over. It's fine. Okay. What's up, everybody? Parker's Place here, and we're doing another tier list today with Pokemon starters. Let's go. So we got Venusaur, and I think Venusaur is a B tier. I think it's pretty solid, but it's not as good as the other starters in Gen 1, you know? It's like very easily overshadowed by that. Speaking of which, Charizard, I think it's an A tier. And actually, S tier. Probably the bottom of S tier when I get more Pokemon in there, but it's basically the second mascot. Like, you can't go wrong with Charizard. Obviously, it's kind of hard to do the first couple of gyms in Gen 1, but Charizard is definitely, like, one of the most important starters that everyone can relate to, or everyone, you know, sees and uses and that kind of thing. Now, Blastoise, I think Blastoise is probably B tier. It's definitely a good water type, but pretty bulky. I think it's gotten better throughout the generations. I think that's for sure. But this is not. I don't know. It's like an average water type starter, in my opinion. Meganium. Now, Meganium, hot take, A tier. It's a bulky grass type, and I also like the fact that I had a shiny one in Heart Gold Soul Silver one time. So it's got to be a little bit higher on the board for me. Now for Alligator, this might be another hot take, but I think it's an S tier as well. It's just like, it's such a cool looking starter to me. I like the fact that, you know, coming off of Blastoise, I think it's definitely an improvement for sure, like 100%. You know, being a freaking alligator and slash crocodile in its previous evolutions, I think it just looks so cool, and you know, I've always enjoyed using it. Now Typhlosion, this might be a hot take, but I think it's bottom of B tier, because well, you got Charizard in Gen 1. It's like, how are you going to be able to top that? And they made like a ferret. It's okay, but you know, it really doesn't compare to like Charizard at all, in my opinion, honestly. The Sceptile, and I think this is another possibly hot take, maybe not, but I think it's probably in the middle of B tier. It's a good starter. I think, you know, it's obviously good for the first gym and in Gen 3, and it's good against the water type gyms, and there's a lot of water in Gen 3. So, you know, it definitely has a lot of uses for it, but it's really kind of, it's not super special. And I think the way they made it special was giving it a dragon type for its Mega Evolution in Gen 6, but it's kind of, I don't think it's as good as the other two. Speaking of which, I don't know why, but it's like the other starters there's always like one starter in each generation that's like not as good as the others. Alright, Blaziken, S tier. I think it's probably one of my favorite starters. It's definitely up there with Charizard. Now, Blaziken, I grew up with Sapphire. That was like the first game that I played very, very heavily and really got me into Pokemon as much as I am today. So, Blaziken definitely has a special place in there. I did so many runs with just Blaziken, and or using Blaziken, I should say, and you know, it's definitely like one of the homies for me. Now, Swampert is definitely A tier. It's a really, really great typing. Water and ground is just phenomenal because it resists. Like, the only drawback is that it's weak to grass 4 times, but usually you can find some kind of coverage Pokemon to have on your team. You know, obviously I kind of speak a little bit more from the perspective of Nuzlocke, because obviously if you're doing a regular playthrough, you're gonna make your team the way you want, so you can do whatever. But I like to play Nuzlocke more often because, you know, obviously Pokemon is easy, so adding that extra challenge gives me kind of more of, you know, an interest to play, or at least to like beat the game kind of thing. And so Swampert has an incredible typing. The fact that it's one of the few Pokemon that is super effective against Watson at that point in the game, it just makes it a fantastic choice. Now, Torterra is another really, really solid Pokemon. I'm going to put that in the A tier as well. I think all of the Gen 4 starters are just really, really solid. They have really, really incredible designs. I think that's one of the main things that goes for them. But Yeah, my only thing is that Torterra being 4 times weak to ice really, really stinks for it because ice is such a great typing, and you're going to find that on a lot of water types, like with either Ice Beam or Ice Fang, those kinds of moves. So it's really common that you're going to run into something that will take you out. So I think that kind of lowers it just a little bit, in my opinion. And this might be a hot take, but I think Infernape is just A tier because I don't know. I like Blaziken better. I just think Blaziken is superior. I don't know. It is what it is. It's not to say that Infernape is a bad Pokemon, and it's not a bad choice for starter throughout this region, because fire types are extremely rare in Gen 4. They kind of helped in Platinum, but in Hardcore, or I guess it's Diamond and Pearl, there was like one fire type, and it was Ponyta, and that was it until post game. So you basically have to either get Infernape or no fire type, pretty much. Empoleon. Now, Empoleon, I think, is another S tier. Partially because its design as an Emperor Penguin just looks amazing. It looks so good. And then also has great typing. It's a good, like, water type is a great type. You're always going to want a water type on the team. And the steel type really gives it a great defensive advantage towards just a base water type. So I think it's definitely an S tier for that reason. Okay, now on to Gen 5. Now Snivy, or I guess Superior, I think that's kind of C tier. It's definitely the weakest starter in my opinion from Gen 5, but you know, you're always gonna have, you know, maybe at least one that's kind of on the lower end of the spectrum. But it definitely, like, its hidden ability really makes it good with Contrary, and you can use Leaf Storm. That makes it really good, but you can't really use that in a playthrough, so that kind of defeats the purpose of it. Now Emboar, another firefighting type, so it's going in the B tier. I'll probably put it in the middle of B tier, mostly because it's a bulky fire type. It's probably the bulkiest fire type out of them all. Maybe Incineroar might be more, but I don't think so. Anyway, moving on. Samurott. Samurot's kind of, I think it's a B tier. It's not as memorable. It's definitely, I think it's the cutest though. Like Oshawott, I think is the cutest starter from Gen 5. But it's just not as memorable. Or it's not like, it doesn't stand out compared to like other water type starters. Okay, let's go on. What is this? Chestnut. I had to remember its name. Oof. Haven't played Gen 6 in a while. Chestnut. Yeah. It's being a grass fighting type, it's kind of interesting. You know, and it's got like some good moves, and its hidden ability is pretty cool, I guess, but it's very niche, you know. So it's kind of hard to make it a better rank because Greninja I'm just gonna go ahead and put Greninja in S tier. Greninja far outranks. I'll put Greninja right here. I think Greninja far outranks the other two starters from Generation 6, like far and away. And that's why they gave Ash Greninja. They made that a thing, which I think was only in Gen 7, but, you know, it's like, why else would you have Greninja be like the mascot of Gen 6, basically? It kind of makes no sense, but... Now, Delphox, I think is D tier. D for Delphox. It's just like, everyone was waiting for a fire type to not be firefighting, and they made it a fire psychic, and it was really, really uninteresting, so... You know, it just kind of loses a lot of its power, I guess, or influence with the audience, I think. I think Fennekin was pretty cute, but, like, once it got to, like, Braixen was really cool, but then Delphox was just not. I just don't think it's as good. You know, it is what it is. Now, Decidueye. S tier. I'm going to put it at the very top. Decidueye is probably one of my favorite stars, if not my favorite. Mostly because it's an owl. And I love owls. Owls have always been my favorite animal for like the longest time. So when they announced an owl starter in Gen 7, I was like, oh my gosh, let's go. I was ready. I was ready. I was ready for it. So now Primarina, I think is probably more like a C tier. I'm not a big fan of Primarina or Popplio or anything like that. You know what? I think I'm gonna have to put it in the bottom side of C tier. It's mostly just because like I don't think it's as good as Decidueye. I mostly just really like Decidueye. That's kind of my only reason why. And Incineroar, I think Incineroar is actually kind of cool. I'll put it in the B tier. Now, Incineroar is really cool. Also in Smash, I think it's a pretty good fighter to use in Smash. The only problem is it's pretty slow, but it hits really, really hard. So I think that's pretty cool. Now, Gen 8 starters. Now, I've only played through Gen 8 like once, and I picked Sobble, so whatever. I can't even remember what this one's name is. I know Rillaboom, then Cinderace, and I will never remember that one's name, but it's funny because that's the starter that I picked. But Rillaboom, I think Rillaboom's actually pretty cool. I probably should have picked Rillaboom, you know, because it's a drummer. It's a freaking drummer. That's pretty cool. I'm a musician, so I should have picked the musician. Cinderace. Now, Cinderace, probably, you know what? Cinderace is probably in the B tier. And then, Inteleon, that's what it's. Ha! I knew I would remember it. Inteleon. Honestly, Inteleon is probably like the weakest of the starters in Gen 8, in my opinion. Probably somewhere around here. Yeah, that's about it. I think that's a pretty reasonable place to put it. But that's my tier list. If you disagree, let me know in the comments. If you think I'm totally whack for some of these picks, let me know. You know, leave a like and comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.